Hello and welcome to this technical masterclass from Dubber, exploring Dubber's unified call recording and voice AI solution for Microsoft Teams. My name is Tim Ward. I head up Dubber's Microsoft practice for APAC, and joining me on this call and presenting the technical masterclass is Sri Valsam, who is our solutions architect. What we're going to cover off today, just giving a quick overview of the agenda. I'm just going to talk about a little bit about Dubber for those that don't know the business. Then Shree's going to come and give an overview of the architecture, talk about the portal and give a demo on the portal, talk about Salesforce integration and how we can facilitate that. Then taking all the rich data that the Dubber platform does capture and how that we can display that into in dashboards and analytics. And then at the end, we'll have some time for questions and answers. So about Dubber. So Dubber is the only certified unified call recording with AI insights for Microsoft Teams today. What does that mean? So we record every Microsoft Teams call, so ensuring there's that compliance element to it, and very importantly, that it's affordable, so it can be deployed at scale and deployed in a click. So our solution is very simple to deploy, be 100% cloud-based, ensures that we can deploy to one user or 1,000 or 100,000 users in very short amount of time. The solution is designed from the ground up to be simple and easy to use. So whether you're viewing on your mobile phone, on a tablet, or on your PC, being able to instantly search and replay recordings. As I mentioned, it's infinitely scalable. So being born of the cloud, we can scale from very small to very large user bases, single location, multiple location, all very quickly with no hardware, no additional services required. Utilizing the AI insights, from what we can do then is you can really capture critical insights from every single conversation. So using that to pull out sentiment and different emotions within sentiment. It gives you really the ability to drill down quickly onto potentially problem calls with anger, for example. I mentioned so compliance, data sovereignty, all things that are important to Dubber. So that's all included. Unified call recording I mentioned up front. So the ability to capture calls from Microsoft Teams, from mobile platforms, from pretty much any domestic carrier we've got here in Australia, being able to capture all those call recordings in addition to Microsoft Teams and give that single pane of glass capability for the platform. And then pulling this all together, once we have all these recordings and all this rich metadata and AI insights captured, is the ability then to take that data and integrate that into other platforms. So utilizing the API, being able to pull that into CRMs or other solutions and systems that you might have. So why Dubber? Importantly, we are in the network of over 200 networks globally. So thinking carriers, domestically Australia, look at Telstra, look at Optus, think US, AT&T, Verizon, think O2, Vodafone, that sort of scale. So we're continually growing, and that's a key part of our success. On the back of that, we're recording over 100 billion minutes so far, and continuing to grow exponentially in that. So as a result of that, we are number one certified compliant call recording solution, and we get 5-star ratings from G2 Crowd. We're an ASX listed company, so an Australian business. We're 10 years old, and as I mentioned, growing exponentially. On the back of the Microsoft Teams success, there's more and more critical conversations are happening on that platform than ever before, and this will only continue to grow in trend. So what we're seeing is a massive growth and across different industries. So it isn't just limited to the obvious ones like FSI. from small businesses up are all looking at replacing their existing telephony platform with Microsoft Teams, and being able to utilize all the collaboration and workforce capabilities that exist on the platform. So to that end, that gives you a little bit of an overview about who we are. I'll hand over to Sri now, who will be taking you through the technical workshop. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sri, and I'll be your host for the next 15 minutes. So let's see what I'm going to talk about today. So I'll be talking about the double architecture, followed by the showcasing the double portal. Then we'll talk about the Salesforce integration, and we'll finally close it out with the AI analytics or dashboarding. Right. So let's move to the next slide. So what you're seeing right now on the screen is the high-level architecture on how we integrate with the Microsoft Teams calling platform. So as you can see on the bottom left, you have your Microsoft Teams users. They might be making and receiving calls using different endpoints. So they might be using the mobile cell phone, the IP hard phones, or desktop cell phones, right? And they might be connected to the calling platform, either through public internet, or you might have a direct routing integration as well. One thing to notice over here is we are agnostic on the kind of SIP trunking that we have. Well, because we are mainly focused on the Microsoft Graph API platform, as you can see over here. So what we do is we have a secured API integration, which basically taps into the raw audio and also CTI data, right? So we have hosted our recording boards on Azure, where we capture the raw audio and metadata, and then push it to our core infrastructure, which basically resides on AWS. So the double solution basically resides on the AWS platform. So we use the processing, compute, and storage capabilities of AWS, and we mirror every region of AWS. So basically, we have more than 13 regions of presence. And to talk about the platform in general, all the data is encrypted at rest using AES 256-bit encryption keys, and over transit, it is basically secured using HTTPS and TLS. And we have, a strategic partnership with IBM, wherein we use the IBM Watson engine for speech-to-text transcription and AI insights, right? And once the call, goes through all these layers, you as an end user or partner can basically access the call data and the AI information around that using the mobile app for search and replay, the web browser, and the REST APIs. So the REST APIs are USB because basically it enables you to, manage the entire platform or your account using APIs, and also extract the data out from the platform and integrate it with third-party apps, maybe like Microsoft Dynamics CRM or Power BI, right? So let's move to the next slide. So these are the regions where we have presence in. So, so you can see all the blue circles, they are the AWS region. And the blue ones circled with the red are the regions where we have the Microsoft team, stack spin up. So basically, we have, from an APAC perspective, we have active regions in Australia, in Singapore, and in Japan, right? So we are kind of covered for any customer requirement around these regions. Right. So, and from a technology perspective on how we basically record, so it's pretty easy. So what we usually do is, we would ship out an integration guide, which would have some PowerShell scripts. So you would need to run those PowerShell scripts on your Microsoft, Teams tenant. And once that's run, the recording policy gets activated on all the users, and it would generate a CSV file, which you would be able to send it back to our support desk, and they would then start, provisioning the account. And once that's done, from an end user perspective, let's say user A is a user on your platform and he places a call. So the calling platform checks whether he has a team policy attached to him. If it's a yes, then it invites a recorder, which in this case would be double, and we start recording the call. Right. So now let's go ahead and see the portal. So let's see. So what you're seeing right now. So what you're seeing right now is the double portal. So I'm currently logged out to my Sandbox account. And one thing to notice over here is we have enabled single sign-on. So if you want to leverage your ADFS or Azure AD login, you can absolutely leverage that as well. So I'm currently logged in as a super user. So I've complete access to all the elements of the portal. So I've access to all the call recordings, my personal call recordings, and also I could group users and provide individual users with access to just the calls they want to see, right? So as you can see, from a user perspective, you have all the information associated to a call, like the CTI data, the duration of the call and the date and the time, standard media controls to play and pause the call, right? Apart from that, you also get options like legal hold, which is used in the FSI sector to override the retention policy, especially if the call is really important or problematic and you want to hold it for the life of the customer. And one thing to mention is, like, since we use AWS, we provide unlimited storage and call retention for all of our users, right? And also, if you want to share the calls to an external party, you can do that. Just put in the email address of the external party, and the call gets sent as a web link or HTTPS, and it does have an expiry period of like 24 hours, right? So really secure method of sharing the calls. And we also support tags. So you listen to a call and you want to add notes to it. Absolutely, you can add notes. Unlimited note adding is possible, and you can search on these notes as well. And based on the kind of user permissions, you can download and also delete the call, right? And you have access to the search engine, wherein you would be able to search in all of your calls, team calls or your personal recordings. You could filter by recordings or voicemails, multiple monitor users. You could query on the CTI data, the call names, the duration, and you could also search on the call tags. And if you have speech-to-text transcription enabled, you can also search on the transcription as well. And you have date range searches as well. So whatever I've spoken to you or shown you is basically the basic call recording product. And the next iteration or the next licensing model is for the AI. So on almost all the calls, you would be able to see a book icon and also an emoji icon, which basically depicts that the calls have the AI turned on. So let's see what happens when we click on this particular icon. So, when we click over here, it directs us to a different page where I'm still able to play back the call, but I also get to see the overall sentiment, the 7 emotions in play, and the speech to text transcription, where each sentence is transcribed with a sentiment, right? So the sentiment can range anywhere between positive, neutral, and negative. And if I want to start playing the call from a particular utterance, I can do that. I click over, and the call would start playing from there. And as explained earlier, the beauty of the platform lies in the fact that I can export everything that I see on the screen to a third-party app. So I can export the WAV file, the sentiment data, the emotion, and the speech-to-text transcription, right? So that's one feature that you get with the AI license. Another feature that you get is basically AI notification, or in simple terms, it's keyword matching. So so when you're in stock new customer, this would be empty. So you could create your own notification, and we support up to 100 notification, right? So let's say you're working with a health emergency provider, maybe an ambulance provider. What kind of words are they interested on, right? So basically, whenever somebody mentioned, emergency or trauma in a particular conversation, and that conversation could be an inbound call or an outbound call, and it might include your user, the other participant's mobile number or DID number, and optionally you can select the sentiment. And whenever these criteria are met, it would send out an email notification to a person of interest on a frequency of their choice, which might be an immediate one or a summary if it's not so urgent, right? And you can also funnel this information to an API endpoint. Say, for example, you want to notify your field users via SMS. So add a Twilio endpoint, right? You can do that. Like if it's like a different notification, maybe a sales notification where a customer is saying that he want to cancel a subscription, and you want to basically put an information inside Salesforce, so you could leverage the REST of APIs as well, right? So from a use case, why do you want to use AI notification? Say, for example, right, your organization might receive hundreds of calls per hour or on a daily basis, but you don't want to go and listen to all those hundreds of calls. but you want to be notified on certain calls where you have some certain keywords which you keep a tab on, right? So basically it cuts out the noise and you can focus on things that are really important to you. Right, so that's it from a portal demo perspective. Now let's go and see what we'll talk about in the next slide. So next there is a Salesforce integration, right? So if you go back to the portal, like you could, so if you're a Dabber customer and if you want to use the Dabber data inside Salesforce, absolutely you can. So you can go to the Salesforce Marketplace and purchase integration. And once it's integrated, you don't really need to go to the Dabber page to search and replay calls. So you have one single pane of glass, which is Salesforce, wherein you would be able to see all calls associated with a particular account or a contact. So in this case, let's take the example of this particular account. As you can see, you have all the elements of Salesforce over here, but you would get an additional tab once you have the integration activated. So you click on Dabber, and what do you see? So you get to see all the call details, right? So you get to see the date and time, the recording, the CTI data, like from and to information, the duration. And if you have AI, you also get the sentiment and the transcript. So let's see what happens when I click on this particular link. So it directs me to a different page. So if I click over here, I can directly go and listen to the call from the Dabber portal. So it's still secure. And I get to see the call details, the 7 emotions, and I can also read the transcription right from Salesforce itself, right? So, so basically using this integration, it simplifies your process. So you can basically map your customer journey right around call recording and so the sentiment across that particular journey, right? So really a neat integration. So let's go to the next bit of the demonstration, which is basically analytics. Right, so we have spoken about how you capture call recordings and also visualize speech-to-text transcription data. And the final bit or the important bit is how do you basically consume the data, right? So for both the call recording and the AI user license, you get an option to export the data as a CSV file, right, using our APIs. So these are the kind of information that we expose. So if like in this case, you would have the user information that's basically the Dabber information, the CTI information, the AI information if you have the AI turned on, and the media file. Right, so basically call the Dabber API, you get a CSV file, you can then import it to Microsoft Power BI, right, and visualize the key performance metrics. So what I want to showcase is basically how one of our partners, which is basically a managed service provider, leverage the Dabber AI tool to improve customer retention and satisfaction. So basically their pain points were, they were having declining customer retention and satisfaction across their help desk. So the tools that they use were Dabber AI and the Power BI dashboard. So let's go to the Power BI template over here. So this is a template which we have provided to this managed service provider, and we are happy to provide this to our customers and also partners, right? So over in this case, as you can see, for the month of April, they had around 6,000 calls spanning across 20 users. So mainly it's an outbound call center. So they make a lot of outbound calls, right? And you can see all the key performance metrics over here, right? So you get to see the inbound call trend and the outbound call trend and the user table as well. So you don't get much info from here other than that you have more calls, you have really a huge volume of calls, and most of them are dominated by outbound calls. But since you have the AI information, you get to see pretty interesting info over here. So as you can see, you still have the KPI information, but also you get to see the overall sentiment. So most of the calls are neutral, which is the case with 90% of all the organization. But you also get to see the positive, percentage and also the negative ones. You can see the inbound sentiment trend and also the outbound sentiment trend, and you can also see the tone analysis. So if you see the outbound sentiment trend, you can see that there is a consistent presence of negative calls. So all these red lines, negative calls. So now there are around under 1%, under 2% of the calls are negative. So how difficult would it be to basically identify those calls if you don't have AI, right? You'll have to go through each call and basically listen and understand. But having a solution like Dabber really simplifies that. So let's say let's pick one date, maybe 26th. So let's go to the analytics. So it's already pre-picked. So you select 26th, you select outbound and negative. So right now the users have dropped. So you can see that the calls have dropped from around 6,000 to 15, right? Which is an easier number to work with, and it's only 6 users. And on the caller table, you can basically sort the calls based on the longest duration or the sentiment score. So in this case, let's say, Elias has made a call to this particular number, and if you want to basically identify what's wrong, with this particular call, you get a specimen of what's happening in your organization. So rather than listening to all those 6,000 calls or even hundreds of calls, you're just taking a specimen of like 5 calls or 10 calls and understanding where we need to improve. So if you want to basically go and identify, you click on the URL, which will then direct you to the Dabber page. So this is a customer account, so I won't be able to log in. So over here, once you are already logged in, you would be able to play back the call and also see the transcription. And once you identify what the problem is, you would be able to mitigate it, right? Maybe by giving training to your agents or creating AI notification. So that's how you basically bring value by having a solution like Dabber. Let's see. I think that's it from my end. It's basically dashboards. Right. Thank you, and I'll pass it back to the team so that we can open it up for questions. Thank you.